About empathetic distress. And if you are a highly empathetic person, then you already know what this is going to be about because it is exactly what it sounds like. So empathetic distress is when you feel overwhelmed by other people's suffering, and you feel helpless or you feel hopeless in the situation. And this can lead to emotional and physical burnout, and potentially depression or other health problems, especially if it's ongoing and not dealt with. So basically what this means is we are mirroring their emotions to the point where it negatively affects us. And this can be especially self-destructive when you are in a toxic relationship and you know it's time for you to go. Every part of you wants to go, but you are so worried about how the other person is going to react, what they're going to go through, how they're going to handle it. And because you're worried about their well-being, you end up staying in the relationship longer than you actually should. And I've seen this in both men and women. It can be as small as you're worried about them failing their upcoming exams, or maybe they just have a lot on their plate and you don't want to add to it, so you want to wait for the right time. Or it can be as big as you know about their mental health issues or their upbringing and their childhood wounds, and you don't want to trigger them and you're really scared of how they're going to be able to handle it, if they're going to be able to handle it at all. And basically all this empathetic distress is chaining you to this relationship. So empathetic distress is of course linked to stress and burnout, whereas empathetic care, the healthy way to empathize, is about connection. It's about warmth, it's compassion. And I see this most commonly in romantic relationships, partner relationships, but I would say family relationships are pretty high up there, especially if you're raised in a cultural household. You're raised to feel like you have to, at all costs, take care of your family, especially if they've come from a rough background. And it's totally natural to want to take care of your family, to want to have the best for them and do the best for them. I think everyone should want to do that. But when it gets to the point where you're so worried about letting them down, what they're going to think, how they're going to react, it can really affect you and prevent you from pursuing your goals and your dreams or just being your authentic, genuine, true self. Which leads me to a specific form of guilt called omnipotent responsibility guilt. So this is an exaggerated sense of responsibility and concern for other people. So this is actually called the Superman or Superwoman guilt because it's based on the belief that it's your duty to save or take care of your loved ones, and you have the power to do it. And if you don't get it done, everything is going to go to shits because it's all in your hands. So this form of guilt is developed through trauma. So for example, let's say when you were a kid, someone you hated or someone pissed you off. Maybe it was your brother, maybe it was someone close to you, and you were like, I hate you, I wish you were dead. As kids do, and which is a very normal response for a child to have. But let's say through some coincidence that person ends up dying. And as a child, you internalize that as your fault. Even though you didn't put that into action and it's not your fault, you feel like it is. And this is actually called magical thinking. So in magical thinking, you believe that it's your wish, it's your thoughts that cause these actions to manifest into your reality. So as adults, no matter how mature we are, whether consciously or subconsciously, we still engage in magical thinking by seeing ourselves as omnipotent. In other words, we think we can do anything. So the Superman, Wonder Woman guilt helps us cope with traumatic situations, and we really come to believe that we possess these superhuman qualities. And the more helpless we feel in a life or death situation, the greater the need for those superhuman powers. So survivors of traumatic events often experience guilt for not knowing what any other person could not have known, and for not having the abilities that are beyond human capability. So for example, medical staff who can't save everybody, or soldiers who couldn't predict enemy attacks, or parents who couldn't prevent illness or harm from their children, or maybe kids who couldn't protect their parents, or even someone who is witnessing a loved one go through a medical procedure or medical illnesses and it's beyond their control, but they feel that outcome is still on their hands. So if you're telling yourself that you're responsible for the variables of life or death, and you feel like you could have prevented a terrible situation from happening, then you may be experiencing Superman, Wonder Woman guilt. And the combination of empathetic distress with omnipotent guilt is a ticking time bomb. It is a mental grenade waiting to explode on your ass. So you really need to check in with yourself and make sure you go back onto the right track of empathetic care and just really deal with that, because you really need to look after yourself first. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I know a lot of us are going through a self-love journey or spiritual journey, probably both. And on this path, we're constantly discovering ways to elevate ourselves and improve ourselves. And we come to realize, you really truly come to realize that hurt people hurt people. So this can really be a double-edged sword, because on one hand, it can be a healing factor for you. It can be a reason why you let go a lot of anger and resentment towards somebody that has done you wrong. It'll at least contribute to it if it doesn't diminish it completely. But on the other hand, when you realize that it all comes from a place of hurt, we can, especially the empaths, we tend to be a little bit too understanding and let the wrong people back in. And that is not what you want to do. I mean, it is obviously up to you, and you can decide who is worth letting back in and who you need to keep out. But I'm just warning you to just make sure you are careful with who you are choosing to let back in, because let's say you are on the path of empathetic care or just on self-improvement and just on the right track, and you let this energy back in, they can deter you right back onto that path of empathetic distress. So be careful. And just a side note, there is a third track, the no empathy track. And the highly empath and the no empath usually attract each other like a magnet, which is the relationship between an empath and a narcissist. So I just want to remind you guys that knowledge is power, of course, but also it's not your job to be Superman or Wonder Woman in other people's lives. If you are giving your energy to somebody and it's depleting you, it's time to take a step back and choose yourself. There's this quote that I always randomly see that says, "Don't burn yourself to keep others warm," which is exactly what empathetic distress is. It is not your job. It is not your fault, and it's okay to choose yourself. So I will be doing a video on empaths, and in this instance, it is overwhelming and overbearing. But empathy is such a vital human experience, and relating to other people's pain and problems is the reason why we have such highly emotional connections sometimes, why we come together, why people choose to do things that are greater than them, that are beyond them, the reason why people choose to contribute to society in such a positive way. So what I'm trying to say is never view your empathy as a form of weakness, okay? Compassion is a motherfucking strength, especially in this day and age, in our generation where being a savage is so glorified, where people are just walking around numb, trust issues, all this stuff. And, I definitely support self-love, getting your bag and all that stuff, all that good stuff. I'm all about that as well. But balance is key, and you want to have both. You want to get in your bag, you want to focus on self-love, but you still want to maintain that compassion. And that really is a gift. It is a gift to be able to do that, because not everyone possesses the ability in this lifetime anyways to be able to do that. So, give yourself a pat on the shoulder because you did that. I mean, if you think about it, all the negative situations that you've gone through, which you probably have because we all do, not only have you come through it, but you've prospered and you've maintained that spark and that love and that compassion for others, even though you've been done wrong time and time again. That is a gift, you guys. Do not take that for granted, because you are here to spread love and positivity. And when you are at your healthiest, if you have that type of personality, when you are at your healthiest, you are able to radiate love on such a level that you influence people all around you. And it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you are a doctor or if you're a cashier, it doesn't matter what your job is. Just you as that person can change someone's life. And I'm saying this as somebody who experiences that on a daily, I wouldn't say daily basis, and just the things that people say, their energy, their love, like it really influences me and it affects me in a positive way. And I love that shit, you guys. I love that shit. All right, I'm getting to the cheesiness, so that's my cue to go. So I just want to remind you guys that empathy is a strength. It's a superpower. And just like any other superpower, you just have to learn how to moderate it. Using it too much, using it at the wrong time, can destroy you. It can be self-destructive to you. So you just need to learn how to use it in a positive way and know when to draw back and choose yourself instead. Okay, empaths, I love you guys. I hope this video was helpful and informative to you in some way. And also let me know if anybody would like a video on tips from going from empathetic distress to empathetic care, or finding that balance in general, and I'll definitely put that into the works. So if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and all that good stuff. And I will see you next Monday. Thank you again for tuning in. Stay fine, free.